There is a truth that sooner or later, each of us must accept. No one truly cares. No one cares how many times you've failed, how hard you've tried, or how tired you feel. That may sound harsh, but it is the beginning of freedom. Because when you stop waiting for recognition, you begin to act for the right reasons. You no longer live to impress, but to become someone you respect. In a world full of noise, where everyone wants to be noticed, inner silence, the focus on oneself, is real strength. This message isn't meant to encourage coldness or apathy, but to remind you, peace does not come from applause, but from holding fast to your discipline and your values. Let us now explore 12 lessons from Stoic philosophy to understand why, when no one cares, it becomes your chance to grow strong from within. 1. You don't need applause to prove your worth. There's a simple yet weighty question. Would you still do this if no one saw, no one clapped, and no one praised you? Many avoid that question because it forces us to confront the true motive behind our actions. We live in a time when effort is often tied to the need for recognition. A photo needs likes, a project needs compliments, even a good deed expects to be noticed. But what if all the applause disappeared? If no one paid attention, would you still keep the promises you made to yourself? Stoicism teaches that value isn't found in the eyes of others, but in the alignment between action and conscience. When you do what's right, even if no one sees, you are becoming stronger. Because the person most worthy of pride is not the one admired by the world, but the one who can look in the mirror and smile without shame. Praise is a reward, but not a standard. It's like stage lights, bright for a moment, then gone, unstable and unreliable. To define your worth by it is like building a house on sand. Think of the sun. It rises every day, quietly, without reminders, without waiting for applause. Even when no one looks up, the sun still shines. That's the model of inner strength, a power that doesn't need noise to exist. And you can be the same, a person who lives by discipline, inner conviction, and the principles you commit to each day, whether anyone notices or not. Many live to impress, but that way of living is exhausting. You're always performing, adjusting, scanning others for reactions. One critique, one cold glance, and your spirit crumbles. In contrast, the one who doesn't live for applause possesses something the crowd lacks: freedom. They have nothing to prove. They don't need perfection. They only need to be honest with themselves. And that's enough to keep them steady, peaceful, and growing every day. So next time you do something meaningful, write a journal page, go for a dawn run, refuse an easy lie, and no one knows, remember this. In that moment, you're building real value. No one can take away the self-respect that comes from a right action. No one can erase the foundation built from consistency. And if you feel proud of how you live today, that is the quietest yet noblest applause, the one that rises from within your own soul. 2. The craving for recognition is a trap. From a young age, we learn to seek recognition, a proud look from a parent, a gold star from a teacher, applause when we do something right. These become emotional rewards that make us feel worthy. As we grow older, those rewards morph into likes on social media, praise from a boss, nods from our friends. Gradually, we stop asking if what we're doing is right and start asking, do people like this? Will they approve? And so, the trap is set, a sweet trap that slowly drains your inner freedom. The desire to be recognized isn't wrong, it's human nature. But when it becomes your guide, when every decision depends on someone else's approval, you lose your autonomy. Living that way is like wearing clothes that don't fit, always trying to suit the expectations of others, always fearing judgment, rejection, or misunderstanding. You become an actor in a play written by society, repeating a safe role but never truly being yourself. Stoicism doesn't teach us to despise others, but to not let their gaze rule us. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be prepared to look like a fool." Because real growth is lonely. It requires walking a different path, doing things others don't understand, standing silent in a noisy crowd. And to do that, you must break free from the need to be recognized. The problem is this: recognition is beyond your control. Today you're praised, tomorrow you might be criticized for the same thing. People see you through their own lens, distorted by biases, emotions, and limitations. If your worth depends on such a view, you'll live in a constant state of instability. Joy will feel fragile, confidence will easily collapse, and your identity will be eroded day by day. Escaping that trap doesn't mean becoming cold or arrogant. It means learning to return to yourself, to evaluate your actions based on principles, not applause. To say, "I chose this because it's right for me," even if others don't understand or agree. That's the strength the modern world is missing. And when you no longer need recognition to feel whole, you'll walk with steadier steps, live more truthfully, and find deeper peace in your choices. 3. Control what you can control. Think about the last time you felt stressed, anxious, or disappointed. Chances are it came from something beyond your control. Someone didn't act as you hoped, a result didn't go your way, an unexpected twist disrupted your plans. That's not uncommon. Much of our mental fatigue comes from trying to control what we never could. And here lies a core truth of Stoic philosophy. Peace doesn't come from changing the outer world, but from governing our inner response. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." Simply knowing the difference can save you immense mental energy. You can't control someone else's thoughts. You can't change the weather. You can't force life to follow your script. But you can always control your thinking, your reactions, your choices. That's real power. That's real freedom. A Stoic is not indifferent or disengaged. They still act, love, and carry responsibility. But they don't demand that life be just right to feel at peace. They don't tie their happiness to someone's attitude or the success of a plan. Instead, they turn inward. Am I acting according to my values? Am I staying calm? Am I responding with reason or impulse? These questions become a compass, guiding them through the noise outside. You might encounter someone rude, but you have the power not to respond with anger. You might fail, but you have the power to learn rather than be defined by it. You might lose an opportunity, but you have the power to carry yourself with dignity and move forward. Every time you choose calm over rage, action over complaint, discipline over indulgence, you reclaim authority over your life. You don't need to control the world, only yourself. And here's the gift. The more you focus on what you can control, the less helpless you feel. You stop living on edge and begin building in a strength no one can take from you. In a turbulent world, the strongest person is not the one who wins every battle, but the one who holds steady when everything else falls apart. You can be that person, starting with one small act. Control yourself fully every day. 4. Live by inner standards, not the crowd. There are moments when you stand in a crowded room and feel lost. Not because you're unwelcome, but because something within you is pointing in a direction completely different from what everyone else is doing or celebrating. That is a pivotal moment because it places you before a fundamental choice. Will you follow the crowd to fit in, or live by your inner standard, even if it means walking alone? In an age where the majority's voice can set trends, shape perception, and even cloud reason, staying true to yourself becomes an act of courage and quiet defiance. Stoicism does not promote rebellion against society, but it stresses that if you do not define your own standard of living from within, you will always be pulled by external ones, standards that constantly change and often conflict with who you truly are. What is praised today may be mocked tomorrow. The crowd has no consistent moral compass. It follows emotion, fads, and what is likable rather than what is right. So if you live for societal approval, you'll always be running, anxious, and eventually lost to yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The approval of the crowd is a feeble and unsteady foundation." And he was right. The crowd doesn't truly know who you are, doesn't share your values, and won't bear the consequences of your choices. If you let them decide for you, you're the one who must live with the outcome. Therefore, what matters is not what others think, but whether you can hold your head high before your own conscience. Living by inner standards requires clarity on what is right for you, which values are non-negotiable, which boundaries you will defend, which principles you'll uphold even when no one is watching. Then, even in the smallest moments, when someone speaks ill of another, when the group takes the easy but wrong path, you'll stand your ground. No need for noise, no need to prove yourself. Just quietly choose what's right and hold firm. At times, you may be misunderstood, labeled as different, or even mocked for not fitting in. But remember, what makes you feel alone today may be the very thing that strengthens you tomorrow. And living rightly isn't a loud act. It is a quiet process of inner maturity. When you can consistently live by your internal standard, you no longer need guidance from the crowd. You carry a light, not outside but within, that shines whenever you must take the next step in the dark. 5. Praise and criticism are both meaningless without inner confidence. We often believe that praise fuels confidence while criticism destroys it. But the truth is, both praise and criticism are just two sides of the same coin. External evaluation. And if your confidence rests on something that's fickle, then it isn't true confidence, it's disguised dependence. Today you are praised and feel powerful. Tomorrow someone criticizes you and suddenly you doubt yourself. When your emotions rise and fall with others' words, it's a sign your foundation is still unsteady. That's why Stoics never build self-respect on applause or stares. Stoic philosophy teaches that praise doesn't make you better, and criticism doesn't make you worse, unless you allow it to. Both are just external noises. They do not alter the nature of what you've done. If your action is good, ethical, and meaningful, it remains so, whether anyone acknowledges it or not. And if you do something just to be praised, its value was already compromised. Likewise, if one insult can make you crumble, the problem isn't in the speaker, but in your own lack of grounding. Epictetus once warned, if you are tempted to seek approval from others, recognize that you are trading away your inner integrity. Stoics are not indifferent to feedback, but they are not ruled by it. They take useful input to improve, but they do not lose themselves chasing praise. They understand that what matters most is not what others think, but whether they are living true to their own values. The only question they ask after each action is, did I act from principle or from fear or a desire to be admired? The truth is, if praise is your only fuel, then when it disappears, as it always does, so will your momentum. But if you live from within, praise is merely a passing breeze, pleasant but unnecessary. Likewise, criticism cannot break you if you know who you are, what you're doing, and why it matters. That kind of steadiness is built through inner discipline, through quiet action, through keeping promises to yourself each day, even when no one is watching. 6. Value is created from within. Many people live their entire lives without ever asking, where does my value come from? They assume value is something assigned from the outside, by job titles, degrees, appearance, income, or social connections. And so they chase after these pieces, trying to assemble a picture that looks worthy in others' eyes, unaware that all of it can be taken away at any moment. And when that happens, they feel empty, confused, and begin to doubt themselves. Because true value never comes from what can be lost. True value is built from within, through every choice you make, every principle you protect, and how you live when no one is watching. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that humans are not born with fixed value, nor do they need others' recognition to possess it. You don't need a title, a milestone, beauty, superiority, or fame to be worthy. True value comes from the way you shape yourself every day, in silence, in discipline, in the moments you choose honesty over convenience. Press on when unseen, and stand tall when it would be easier to bow. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And much of that waste comes from searching for value in false places, in looks, attention, or the expectations of others. Stoics don't seek value on achievement boards. They find it in small, intentional acts. Waking up on time, keeping promises, being patient with others, managing their reactions, and continuing the work even without motivation. These small things, repeated over time, stack like bricks, building an inner strength invisible to the eye, but unmistakable to those who encounter it. A person might drive an old car, live simply and be unknown, but walk with a calm clarity that commands respect, not because they are rich or famous, but because they know who they are and live accordingly. In contrast, someone might have everything externally, yet live in constant fear of being forgotten, compared, or outpaced. That person lives on borrowed value, and what is borrowed must eventually be repaid. So, instead of asking, "How do others see me?" begin with this: "Am I living in a way that makes me respect myself?" If the answer is yes, you don't need to be seen, and you don't need to prove anything. Because you've learned that value is not something to be found, it is something built from within, day by day, by your own deliberate choices. 7. Courage doesn't need to be loud. When people speak of courage, they often imagine heroic moments, bold decisions made in crisis, or grand actions that draw admiration. But real courage, in the Stoic sense, often unfolds in silence, without stage lights, without witnesses, without applause. It's the kind of courage you can't photograph or post online. It's the courage of an exhausted mother who still patiently teaches her child kindness each night. The courage of a young person who rejects the safe path to pursue what they believe is right. The courage of someone in pain who still keeps their promise to themselves. Epictetus once said, "You may chain my leg, but my will remains beyond your grasp. Even Zeus cannot control it." This reminds us that the greatest courage isn't about overcoming the outside world, but about mastering the fear within. You don't need to be fearless, just someone who refuses to let fear lead. Stoic courage doesn't shout, "I'm fine," while pretending to be strong. It's shown in the action taken despite trembling hands, unsteady heart, or lack of support. It's the quiet persistence, the loyalty to your principles, even when everything around you shakes. In daily life, courage can mean speaking a hard truth, setting a boundary to protect your integrity, walking away from a relationship knowing it'll bring loneliness, or admitting fault rather than saving face. These acts don't echo loudly, but they build strength. They shape a spine of character, a presence that is quiet, yet unmistakably steady. True courage isn't the absence of pain, but the ability to feel pain without losing your direction. You might cry, feel fear, or be disappointed, but you do not abandon the right path just because your emotions are shaken. You don't live to avoid pain. You live to go through it and grow from it. And perhaps most importantly, courage needs no recognition. It doesn't need to be proven. The bravest people are often the ones who never speak of their bravery. They simply live honestly, choose rightly, and persist in the dark. Because they know that real strength needs no voice. It only needs to be lived consistently every day. 8. Build an inner fortress. Life is always changing. People shift, circumstances evolve. No one can guarantee you'll keep your job tomorrow, that your relationships will remain stable, or that peace of mind will hold steady in a world full of chaos. That's why the Stoic does not build their life on external certainties. Instead, they focus on building what no one can touch, an inner fortress. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "People seek retreats in the countryside, by the sea, or in the mountains. But you can retreat into your own mind at any moment." That wasn't poetic escapism. It was practical wisdom. When the outside world spins out of control, the only refuge you can truly rely on is within. But that refuge isn't built by wishing, it's built by training. No one is born with a stable inner life. It is constructed daily, through discipline, reflection, and intentional choices. An inner fortress isn't a place where you suppress feelings. It's where you learn to manage them. It's where anger doesn't dictate reaction, sadness doesn't consume action, and anxiety doesn't paralyze thought. It's where you remind yourself that while you cannot control events, you can always control your response. And most importantly, that fortress must be built before the storm comes. If you wait to seek peace only after everything has collapsed, you'll find no shelter inside yourself. Building an inner fortress doesn't mean withdrawing from life. It means learning how to engage with life without losing yourself. Each time you stay silent instead of arguing pointlessly, each time you accept failure without self-loathing, each time you sit down to write out your thoughts rather than running from them, that's one more brick laid in the wall. This fortress has no shape, but you'll feel it in how you face adversity, in your calm amid disorder, and in your ability to stay the course even when others walk away. 9. Daily reflection is a powerful tool. We spend so much time planning, doing, and filling our days with tasks, yet we rarely pause to ask one simple question. How did I live today? Busyness makes us forget that doing more isn't the same as living rightly, and being busy isn't proof of moving in the right direction. The Stoic understands that action without reflection is empty, and true growth only begins when we regularly and honestly examine ourselves. Seneca once wrote, "Each night I sit down with myself. I review every action, every word, every thought that occurred during the day." This is not self-blame. It is a ritual of inner discipline. Reflection isn't about dwelling on mistakes or stirring up guilt. It's about better understanding yourself, identifying patterns, recognizing what needs adjustment, and seeing clearly what deserves to be continued. In the stillness of reflection, you don't need to please anyone or maintain appearances. You only need to be honest with the one person you cannot deceive, yourself. When you reflect daily, you begin to notice what escaped your awareness in the moment. Maybe you see that your anger comes from lack of sleep, or that you make rash choices when anxious, or that you avoid hard conversations because you fear being hurt. These insights don't come from reading more books or collecting advice. They come from the courage to look into the mirror of the mind each day without turning away. It's not a comfortable task, but it is an essential one. Reflection also helps you live deliberately rather than reactively. When you understand how you operate, you can adjust before things spiral out of control. You no longer wait for life to teach you through major setbacks because you've already learned from the smaller stumbles. This creates a virtuous cycle. The more you reflect, the clearer you become. The clearer you become, the more intentional your life. The more intentional your life, the fewer regrets you carry. 10. Vulnerability is strength when you master it. We're often taught that to be strong is to be tough, that to earn respect we must never show weakness, that to succeed we must always appear okay. As a result, most people grow up wearing a mask, always bracing, always pretending to be steady, even as they crack inside. But it is the denial of emotion, the suppression of fear, the hiding of pain, and the refusal to acknowledge ourselves that pushes us further from who we are. The Stoics never encouraged living in emotion, but they also never taught denial. Instead, they urged us to recognize it, understand it, and take ownership of it, even the most fragile parts. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's proof that you are alive, that you feel, that you are connected to the world. If you've never trembled when speaking a hard truth, never felt unsteady when saying no to something that no longer serves you, never felt pain when misunderstood, then perhaps you've never lived deeply enough. What matters is not whether you've been hurt, but whether you've had the courage to admit it. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means refusing to let fear dictate your actions. Likewise, strength doesn't mean you're never fragile. It means you are mature enough to stay grounded even while exposed. When you learn to admit your true emotions without being ruled by them, you're mastering yourself on a deeper level. A person who can say, "I am afraid," and not run from fear, who can say, "I am hurting," and not let pain cloud judgment, is someone who no longer needs to hide behind armor. And strangely, that honesty makes you steadier, clearer, and more trustworthy in the eyes of others. No one truly believes in someone who pretends to be perfect, but everyone respects someone honest with themselves. In Stoic thought, vulnerability, when recognized and integrated, becomes a tool of wisdom. It teaches you your limits, deepens your empathy, and reminds you to remain humble in the face of life's unpredictability. But to do that, you must let go of the need to always be fine. Release the fear of judgment and dare to live honestly in a world where everyone is trying to curate a flawless image. 11. Willpower is turning pain into fuel. All of us must eventually face pain. A loss, a betrayal, a major failure, or a broken belief once held dear. No one is immune. No one travels through life without scars. But what defines us is not what we endure, but what we choose to do with it. The Stoics didn't avoid pain, deny it, or wait for it to pass. They accepted it, listened to it, and most importantly, they transformed it into fuel for growth and willpower. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle on the path becomes the path." That's not just clever phrasing, it's practical truth. Often what causes you to hesitate is precisely what you must go through to grow. Strength doesn't come from dodging difficulty, but from facing it and learning from it. Willpower isn't born from constant victories. It comes from rising again after defeat, with a heart still burning to move forward. In Stoicism, pain is an opportunity to cultivate virtue. When you're hurt, you learn patience. When you fail, you build humility. When you're rejected, you learn not to define yourself through others' eyes. Pain, if you refuse to be consumed by it, will teach you lessons comfort never could. But to turn it into fuel, you must change your question. Stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" No one wants to suffer, but no one truly matures without passing through darkness. What matters is that you don't become bitter or hopeless, but choose to turn your wounds into quiet strength. It means sitting with failure to reflect instead of blaming others. It means continuing to try even when you still hurt. It means not letting pain become your excuse to live shallowly or give up on life. 12. Focus on your path, not on others' reactions. Not everyone will oppose you, but many will not understand you. Not everyone will try to stop you, but many will question your direction simply because it doesn't resemble their own. This is natural, and you must learn not to be shaken by it. Every unique path shares one thing in common. Someone will disagree. Someone will doubt. Someone will whisper behind your back. But you can't let others' reactions become the steering wheel of your life. If you change course every time someone disapproves, you'll never arrive anywhere. The Stoics understood this well, and they chose to live by reason, not by public reaction. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be prepared to be seen as foolish and stupid." That's a direct reminder that all true growth requires a phase where others do not understand you. And what matters most is your ability to endure that misunderstanding without losing faith in yourself. If you only take action when there's applause, only move forward when there's approval, then your life will never truly be your own. It will be a patchwork of others' expectations, and in the end, you'll live trying to please a crowd that never even understood itself. Focusing on your path means having the courage to place your ideals above comfort, to value truth over acceptance. It means choosing consistency in action over conformity in appearance. This doesn't mean ignoring others' opinions, but knowing how to filter what is worth learning from and what is merely noise to discard. Maturity is when you no longer need others' reactions to validate that you're moving in the right direction. Instead, you listen to yourself, observe your own behavior, and use your principles as a compass, not public opinion. In reality, many delay right decisions simply out of fear of judgment. They stay in broken relationships because they fear being labeled a failure. They bury their true dreams fearing ridicule. They remain silent when they should speak, afraid of upsetting others. But the truth is, no one can live your life for you. No one bears the cost if you stray from what you know to be right. And the farther you drift from your own path, the emptier you'll feel, no matter how many people applaud you. Focusing on your path is not selfish. It's an act of responsibility to yourself. It's a daily choice to live according to what you understand, believe in, and are building, even if no one walks beside you, even if every glance carries doubt. Because true steadiness doesn't come from how many people support you. It comes from whether you remain loyal to your core values in moments of misunderstanding, scrutiny, or criticism. For a long time, I lived with the feeling that I had to prove something to someone. I worked hard, not out of passion, but in the hope that one day someone would finally recognize me. Every compliment lifted me up, and every criticism made me doubt myself. Until I realized that emotional roller coaster wasn't life, it was dependence. And if I still relied on others' eyes to tell me whether I was living well, then I hadn't truly lived. It was Stoic philosophy that gave me a foundation, not to become indifferent, but to learn how to live with steadiness. I began to understand that value is not something to be found, but something to be built through small, consistent actions, through honesty and silence, through the ability to stand firm when no one agrees. I learned to sit down each night and ask myself, did I live rightly today? And that answer, even if only I know it, is enough. Because at some point you'll realize it's not applause that moves you forward, but the consistency in each step you choose to take without needing anyone to lead you. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next insights. And remember, you don't need to be understood to live rightly. You only need clarity within and the steadiness to stay on the path you believe is worthy. See you in the next video.